Okay, here's the color sanding process before we begin. I can start with wet sanding at 1,000, then I go up to 2,000, then 1,500, 2,500. I end with 3,000, and then I go to a kind of a rougher, it's got more grit in it, polishing compound. I do that first with a wool pad, then second with kind of a rougher foam pad. Then I move to the number two step, and you see that number two is a little less grit in it, and then a little softer pad, and then the final is a number three step, and it's a blue, very soft pad. That's a finishing. So I don't necessarily start with 1,000. I start with the finest grit I can that will do the job. So I don't want to start with 1,000, because if I start with 1,000, I have to go through all of the steps. So if I can get away with starting with 1,500 or 2,500, I'm sorry, these two are mixed. There we go. So if I can get away with starting with 2,000, I will, or even 2,500. Rarely would I get away with starting with 3,000. Now, I had already color sanded this car years ago. So in the last couple of days, I re-color sanded it just to kind of knock off oxidation and any kind of junk that was on there. And I started with 2,500 and sometimes only 3,000 before I jumped off to the four polishing steps. I never skipped the four polishing steps, but I try to start with the finest here to just save time and to take off the least paint possible. So we're going to start a little experiment here and see. I'm probably going to start with 2,500 to see if I can get away with just starting there. Well, I used 2,500, and I'm getting a nice flat matte surface. So I think I'm going to go right to 3,000, and I just did this section right here, and I'm not seeing any bright spots. So I'm going to go to 3,000. You know, I thought this was single stage, so I thought I'd see red coming off. Oh, I do see red coming off. Okay, so it is single stage, which could be good. Okay, I just wet sanded it with the final grit of sandpaper, and that's just wet right now. I'm going to dry that off, and then if I don't see any shiny spots, that's just water that's shining in there. If I don't see any shiny spots, I'm going to go on to the wool and the number one over there. Okay, there's a 3,000. So that surface right there, right here, is the 3,000 sanded. And you start to see a little bit of a sheen on it because it's a pretty fine sandpaper. Now, I could have probably gone down a little more to get, I don't know if you can see it, get little spots like that. But I have to make the decision how much actual paint comes off. You can see the red comes off. So you're actually taking some amount of the paint off in order to get down to the good paint. So I stopped there. I could have done a little more. It just depends on how much time you want to spend on it and how much risk you want to take sanding down. You don't take very much of the layer. You're probably, if that's the thickness of the paint, you're probably taking about that much off. But if whoever painted it didn't put a lot on there, sometimes you can cut through the paint if you're not careful. And even when you are careful, sometimes you can cut through the paint. I think there's a lot of paint on this. I think this is pretty thick just from how it's sanding out. So now we will go to the number one. That's the grittiest. And the wool pad. Now, this is Meguiar's. Meguiar's and 3M are the same. And one day it was the auto paint store professional. So this is Meguiar's, which is different to 3M. But I needed some on a day where I couldn't make it to the professional paint store, and so I had run out of the number one. So this is number two and number three, and I just got. I think it was maybe Harbor Freight had this high cut stuff. It works. It seems to work exactly like the number one. I've used it on a couple of cars. So until I run out of this, I'll just keep using it. But there is a number one, step number one, and I think Meguiar's is made by 3M now. So it may be the exact same stuff. It's a little cheaper too, but it seems to work good as a number one. For polishing, I'm going to use my little hand polisher because I'm just doing a small section here. I won't use the big pads right now. The big pads would be with this Harbor Freight up there, just rotary thing, works great. And that Harbor Freight has a special head on it. It's a 3M head that these are quick disconnect. I also have smaller versions, and they're color coded, as you can see. Smaller versions to get smaller areas. So I kind of got smallest area, next size, of course, next size up. But right now, because it's just a little square, I'm going to use my little battery operated Harbor Freight. Works great. Polisher. So position this. I'm going to kind of go slow, and I'm going to rub it around, make like a film. Sorry, I'm holding the camera and doing the same time. Let's see if I can do this a little better. So kind of spread it out. And I've actually got it on the 1. There's a faster setting. I find it actually works better going a little slower. I'm going to do this until really the material disappears, and you'll see it start to disappear on you. Kind of how you know you're done. And sometimes I'll do that twice, the wool twice, just to make sure I get a good cut in it. I think I'm gonna do that this time. So same thing. This is the second time with the wool. It's a call. Depends on how hard the paint surface is. This feels pretty hard, this paint surface. You got to make sure you don't spend too much time in one spot, or you can burn the paint. You burn a spot, which you can correct, but you can burn through it too. And you don't hit the edges, the radiuses, the sharp radiuses. Okay, so I'm going to wipe that off. And I just use these blue towels. I like those. I'm going to wipe it off. Let's get the material off. You start to see the shine. We'll get better than that, though. Now, I'm noticing here, maybe, let's see if you can see it. I'm noticing where this is pretty sun damaged, pretty oxidized. So I'm noticing where I probably didn't sand down far enough. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sand with, now these are the decisions you make. That's why I do a test spot here. I'm going to sand with, I'm going to start with 2000, and I'm going to go down a little harder because the damage has gone deeper. This is so oxidized. This is probably 15, 20 years of sun. It's so oxidized that the damage has gone deeper than what I could see. I could get it flat before, but apparently the sun damage has gone deeper. So I'm going to take a little more of the paint off, and that'll also get these little spots off here. So I went ahead and I started with 2000. So I resanded it at 2000. And then, of course, if you go back to 2000, you've got to do 2500 and 3000. If you just jump to 3000, you won't get the scratches out from 2000. You'd have to sand a really long time to do it. So you got to go through the process again. That's why I'm just doing a small spot to see what the least I can do. But 2500 wasn't enough, or I should have sanded longer with 2500. But I think it's faster to just start with the 2000. So let's go ahead and polish this and see what happens. So I just polished it like I did before with the wool, and much better result. I can see some sanding scratches on here, which means probably I didn't spend enough time on the 2500 and the 3000. And I can even see some, it's probably hard to see here, but I could even see some faint blemishes from damage that's even gone deeper. Now, I wouldn't go to 1500. I would just maybe sand a little more aggressively with this a little longer. But I'm just about right. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna polish it one more time with this, and then I'm gonna walk through the other steps, and then we'll see what the end result is. But you can see how sharp the reflection is getting from that light up there. And this is like a 98% improvement over obviously that. I mean, that's that's untouched. It's been wiped down, but that's what it looked like. So we're gonna continue with the polishing. So I did a second round with the wool. Wool is more aggressive. When you do this long enough, you understand. Wool is more aggressive than foam. Creates more heat. It's just it cuts deeper. And I did get some of the sand scratches out. So again, this becomes each every paint seems a little different. Like that's a modern urethane. It's a two-stage urethane where you got the color underneath and you got the soft like plastic urethane over. This is a single stage where the color was just sprayed one time with color. And I found that the paints back in the 60s, 70s, 80s single stage were just they're just harder, and you have to do this enough to really understand what that means. But they'll react differently to the different polishing. So you want to do a spot to sort of test the surface. Sometimes it's really easy, and sometimes not so easy. But this is I'm learning on this, and this is looking pretty good. So we're gonna go to a foam, a rougher foam. It's yellow in this case. These are not 3M. These are just a pack you can buy. But this is the hardest of the foam, and we're going to use that same number one with the foam. So I just use number one or the first, the roughest, and then the roughest this. And I can see it's a little hard probably to see through the camera here, but I can see it improving on each step and even getting rid of some of the sanding scratches because everyone's taken a little layer off. You can see the red that's on there. That means it took a little bit of the paint off and smoothed it out. I can even see kind of the water spots as well, which means that maybe I should have gone a little deeper in the sanding process, but it's better probably go a little shallower than deeper because if you do cut through, then you've cut through to the metal or to the paint that's under. And I think there's yellow paint under this. So now I'm going to go on to step 2, and I'm going to use. They even put a 2 on this, although it's not 3M, but it's a softer. You can feel it. It's a softer, and I use this dark colored one for both step 2 and step 3. So I polished it with the number 2 polish, which is that, and then a softer thing. And I can see it again. It's hard to see maybe through the camera, but I can see it getting a little better and a little more mirror-like every time. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it off with number 3. So we'll film this one. It's a complicated process, so it's kind of long. But again, I just put really a thin layer. You don't want to put too much. Just a little bit, and you get an idea of how much it takes. And then I'm going to use that same, in this case, I'm going to use that same pad. If I had the bigger ones, I'd use the 3M, which is a little softer, but this does the job. So first, I'm kind of just spreading it out evenly. And this is more like a lotion. This final one you can't feel any grit in it. So then I'm actually on the high speed now. And you got to get a feel for how long to spend and not cut edges. And again, it's when all the material is sort of gone that visually that you're kind of done. So in this case, I'm going to wipe it off. I just use those blue towels. They work well. And then we'll look at the final product. So I wiped off the residue of the final step. And we'll just kind of see if we can bounce some light. There we go. There's the overhead light right there. And you see on our final thing, we'll move this way onto the area that hasn't been done. And you'll see there's no bouncing at all. It's pretty obvious. So that's really good. That's a really good result. And we took a layer off. You can see the blue, you can see the red, so paint came off, but we didn't take too much. We didn't cut any corners there. That's just residue there. We didn't cut any corners. You see the yellow underneath the chips, so we can do chip repair later, which I could get into. But it's not going to get a deeper scratch like that, or a chip like that. We could have, maybe you can see it. Maybe you can see some of the blemishes there in this area. I'm bouncing some light off. Those, again, it's an experimental type thing. It's a feel thing, but those are experience. You do it long enough. But those are things right there. You see right there that from 5 feet you're not going to see them. You can see from 5 feet. That looks great. So we're going to just get way above here, above the process. And again, this is where most people are going to see the car. And you can see that it pretty much looks like new paint compared to what it did before. It's a labor-intensive process. I could probably spend 20 hours on this car pretty easily, 20 man hours, or probably 10. I could do a quicker job. Again, it's just how much you want, how well you want to do it. And the sides are going to be easier sides of the car because there's not as much sun damage on the side. It just doesn't see the sun. But this car right here that looks very blasé from all the sun damage could almost look like, some people would think it was a new paint job when it was done. So this paint has a lot of potential. And that is the color sanding process.